So, Louis, I noticed that Kanye seems to be back on the Trump train. Do you have any opinions about this?
I do. I think that my first reaction is to basically Candace Owens in a trunk and throw her in a river and never speak of her again because she potentially blew something that appears to be Kanye coming around once again, and that is talking about some very hard issues around black identitarianism.
I tell you what, that seems like a bit of a harsh condemnation of Candace Owens. I think I'm going to defend her a bit here,
Go ahead.
and point out that she's really not as bad as I think that that condemnation makes her
Well,
sound.
you
Uh,
can feel free to defend her. I think she is a professional con artist.
okay, I think she's a professional activist, and she's just acting in ways that she thinks are necessary and ways that can accomplish a particular goal, especially with Kanye. But I can see why people would be angry with her for the things she has done in the past.
I think that her interaction with Kanye is another display, not the only, but another display of her goal, which is to hawk merchandise.
It's hard to argue with that, since that was the cause of the rift.
And the
Um,
thing is, though, is that with Kanye, is that Kanye's fine with hawking merch and hawking product. I mean, he has a brand, and so does his wife.
hmm,
I mean, that's her whole thing is fashion and merchandise and brand and style. But the thing is that what Kanye wanted out of this was something real. It wasn't just another product placement thing for him. And when that scandal happened and it was associated with him, it catapulted him out of it because to him, as far as I can tell, people call it a publicity stunt. But I think that the people calling it that are cynical actors. They want it to be a publicity stunt, and nothing more.
yeah, I mean, he did seem to feel like he was being taken advantage of, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think that when he went to the White House and people made a big ordeal about him showing up there and swearing and doing the meme of showing a meme to Trump on his phone, uh, like you see the kind of enthusiasm that he has about the meeting, and people are crediting the new criminal justice reform bill, the prison reform bill that's now in Congress and it's likely to be passed, or actually, I don't think it has been passed just yet, but it's being kicked around and likely to be passed and signed by the president. They credit Kanye West's wife with that.
I didn't know that. So let's talk about his Trump all day and in specifically this particular tweet. One of my favorite of many things about what the Trump hat represents to me is that people can't tell me what to do because I'm black. That is a hell of a thing to say, isn't it?
It is. Like I said, I think that Kanye is, in many ways, and I've seen people online, plenty of conservative pundits, giving a lot of credit, and they have given a lot of credit to Kanye West because I think that he really is just taking a sledgehammer to something that people on the right want to break into, and that is like this notion of like it's called black culture, but it's like black conformity and black collectivism and black identitarianism. And there's a lot of conservatives, including black conservatives, that refer to the identity that black people have that vote Democrat as the black or as the Democratic plantation because they're stuck
Yes.
on it and they're slaves to it. And I think that that is one of the things that, and Kim Kardashian, his wife, said it best in that Kanye is pursuing free thought. And I think that that's what he's trying to introduce to more people, especially black people, is that they should just think for themselves and really do like Benjamin Franklin said, in autodidactic education, their own education, read for themselves, understand for themselves, and stop following as, so many people do.
I think it's interesting that it's like you say, it's a very prescriptive identity. It says that black people are, and then it's got a very narrow range of things.
Yes.
In this conception of what a black person is, Kanye West doesn't fit. You know, he's
Yes.
he's a father. He's married. He's forward thinking. He's an entrepreneur. He's a billionaire, is he not? You know, at least a multi-millionaire. He's massively successful. He hasn't been held back by the white man, and he doesn't want to be like called the descendant of a slave. He doesn't consider himself like the inheritor of a disadvantage, I think.
Yeah, I think that with him, based on the limited knowledge I have of him, he has done music and has addressed like things that you would see about someone who's actually looking inward. Like he has talked about his ego and his success and the pompous nature of his brand and that sort of thing. He's actually taken the time to like. I think that this is really him on a path to self-actualization. Like he's trying to hold a greater understanding of the world and of himself. And I think that he's touched upon something that a lot of people have reacted to. And I think in his mind that he knows he's hit something.
Yes.
He knows he's hit something that's real and that he wants to explore. And he's probably, I don't think any of us are the best equipped to explore, you know, especially this kind of real issue of Black identitarianism and conformity that exists in the United States. But even though he might not be the best person suited to it, I think that he's dragging the entire country along and doing it because he's so famous.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that this comes down to the tyranny of identitarians as well. I'm obviously,
Yes.
I don't love
And they're
that they
terrified.
do that.
They are fucking terrified of what they
Yeah.
do.
But I don't love that they do that, but I love that it's highlighting that issue because it's one that is so important in my opinion. Like, they don't tell me what to do because I'm black, because that is exactly what they're trying to do with these prescriptions. They're saying, you must be like this. And Kanye wants to be his own man. He wants to make his own decisions. He doesn't want a bunch of angry activists telling him how he has to live his life and how he has to feel, because his life experience is demonstrably different to them. And they're the ones telling him, no, this is how your life experience is. You're oppressed. And it's like, dude.
Well, like I said it on Twitter the other day that as it relates to progressive activism, like they had that the canceled women's march, and it's like, oh, it's because it's too white.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's the progressive movement. A bunch of white, well-educated, middle-class fucking millennials.
And
That's the movement.
Before, because I know someone will say, actually, they'll whip out their fedora and say, actually, they said that there simply wasn't enough representation of people of color. And it's like, yes, but that is just another way of saying it's too white.
Yeah.
So don't give me that nonsense. Crying out loud.
Well, it's a ridiculous concept, not to stray too far, because it's like, okay, black men, let's say, for example, that's like 3% of the country.
But what I love about it as well is that means that white people aren't really capable of doing activism for this anyway. Like, there was a guy who was found running the Black Lives Matter Facebook page, the largest Black Lives Matter Facebook page. He was a white guy from Australia, and Facebook shut down his page. It's like, whoa, hang on. Are you saying that a white person can't run a Black Lives Matter webpage? Like, just because they were successful, is that wrong? You know, and, white people can't go on a march about diversity or whatever, women's march or whatever, because diversity was one of the key issues. It's like, yeah, but, I mean, it was in a town that was something like 95% white or something.
Right.
So it's just like, well, what did you expect was going to happen? You idiots.
Yeah, I think that honestly, even though it sounds off topic, that is an entirely secondary thing that Kanye in what he's doing is also exposing, because it is the effect of what happened at that one federal building. I think it was in California, or Seattle maybe, where you had this black cop like basically keeping the crowd back, and a white Antifa member calling him a nigger. Like,
yep.
That is the kind of thing that I think that Kanye is exposing, because it is this other form of racism. It really is. It's this bizarre thing that's emanating out of progressivism. And I think that eventually you're going to have white progressives calling Kanye West a fucking nigger.
We've already got it. They're already calling him an Uncle Tom, and you've already got the Antifa guys yelling at the black cop.
But I mean going the full circle, the full way.
Well, let
to
me.
where there is to where it is you are using just flat out the worst form of racial slurs possible, and that is going to be where anyone in their right mind is going to look at it and just be so repulsed by it that they will think that they're living in like a bizarro.
So let me read out a couple of the replies. One of them is by Candace Owens, but it's a good reply, right?
Oh God!
No.
Hey Kanye, you want to sell some shoes?
No, come
Want
on,
to sell
come on.
some
Look,
tote bags.
this is what I mean, right? So that is something she did, but it's not the only thing that she did. And she did have virtues as well, and I think it is important to recognise them. But it's not her I want to read out first. Lol Baby Yara. She's a black lady, for if you're not watching the screen. Although I don't stand for that man or what he believes in, Trump, I do believe Ye is right in a sense that he has the right to be a free thinker and shouldn't limit how and what he is doing, he should be doing just because he's black, which is absolutely correct. In fact, that's the most ideal and desirable interpretation of anything that Kanye's doing, and this is the true thing that you were saying he's hit on. He's hit on this truth, and that's exactly it. And Candace Owens replies with, that's the whole point. If black conservatives can't exist without being socially lynched and smeared, then no black person is actually free. That's literally the entire whole plot.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with how people use their freedom to recognise slavery. Now, whether you like Candace Owens or not, that is a great point, and that is exactly the problem. And it's the language that they're using that I find so interesting, like socially lynched and smeared. Well, it kind of is like a social lynching.
No, it absolutely
and it's being done by white
terrorism.
people.
It is absolutely social terrorism. It absolutely is. I think that was the best phrase that I've heard to describe progressive activism in a long time, because if you look at their tactics and if you look what they're really doing to people, it absolutely is terrorism.
Yeah.
You are highlighting people, making examples of them by destroying their fucking lives and using them as basically a head on a pike to show to everyone else, this is why you don't step out of line. This is why you just bow down to what we want and to our influence. It's crazy.
This is why, like, they deleted my Patreon. Like, they deliberately put me in an impossible position. Yeah, but that was the thing. They knew that I wasn't being racist to black people, but they demanded an apology. Well, who? Patreon themselves are demanding the apology. But the thing is, as Jacqueline said in her conversation with Matt Christiansen, I know Sargon, I know what he's all about. It's like, well, then I'm not a racist then. If you've got
but that to me is the biggest example of it's not actually about you breaking TOS or doing anything else. It is simply about the apology.
It's an exercise of power.
We just cost you $100,000 a year. Bend the fucking knee.
Exactly. It's an exercise of power, right? And as someone pointed out on Twitter, I retweeted this, and this was a great point. It's like coercing me into an apology is just the vanity of the person with the power to do it.
Absolutely.
And that is a great point. And that's exactly what this is all about. They know what I am, and they know that what I'm not. Otherwise, they would have removed me along with the alt-right. It was about, exactly as you say, bending the knee. And that's what Kanye's talking about at the very top, where he's like, they can't tell me what to do when I'm black, because I'm black. It's the reason he loves his fucking MAGA hat is that it represents that kind of resistance. I will not bend the knee. I am a fucking MAGA supporter. Get fucked.
Yeah, I think that he's like I said, I don't think that he's the perfect actor for this outside of that. Outside of the resistance to conformity. I think I think that honestly you couldn't find a better person for it than him in that, because I don't think that I think that if there's one thing that I see reflected in myself as it relates to Kanye West, it is that the more you try to coerce me, the more I'm going to resist. Yep. You will never break me. You will never force me to submit to you. I will always resist your demand to conform to you. And it isn't because that he is just looking for some publicity, or that, he's never talked to any progressive before or any person that hates Trump or whatever else. It is that he's heard them, he's listened to them, and he's rejecting their arguments.
Yeah,
they're even and so when they can't persuade him, now they're just moving to coerce him. Mm-hmm. And so again, like I said, it just forces him to resist even further.
Exactly. The demand itself is illegitimate. They don't come with any authority. Because normally they're trying to use moral authority. Oh, you're hurting black people or something like that. You're black, therefore you have to do as we say. And that's not something he considers to be a legitimate moral authority, because he's not a black identitarian.
Yeah.
Good for him. Good for him.